Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into something that honestly feels a little bit like magic, the incredible process of what goes on inside your body the second you take a medication. Whether it's just a basic pain reliever you grabbed at the corner store or a critical daily prescription keeping a chronic condition at bay, the science behind how that tiny capsule actually does its job is, well, it's nothing short of extraordinary. So today, we're going to break down that microscopic journey step by step. Let's get into it.
Have you ever actually stopped to wonder what happens inside your body right after you swallow a pill? I mean, it's such a familiar, everyday action for us, right? You feel a bit under the weather, you toss back a pill with a gulp of water, and then, a little while later, you hopefully start feeling better. But what on earth is happening in the gap between those two moments? I really hadn't thought about it until I dug into this, but let me tell you, it is not magic. It is this invisible, highly complex biological sequence, and understanding it just gives you this profoundly deep appreciation for the human body and the absolute marvel of modern pharmacology.
Okay, moving into Section 1, the science of drugs, where we'll establish our basic vocabulary.
Right, so before we can track our pill's journey, we really need to lay down a little groundwork. The first foundational term you need to know is pharmacodynamics. In plain English, this is just the study of what the drug does to your body. Imagine millions of cells in your body. And on the outside of these cells are these tiny, incredibly complex locks. The drug you just swallowed, it acts like a highly specific key just floating through your system. It ignores all the wrong locks, but when it finally finds the exact right lock, what we call a receptor, it binds to it perfectly. And once that key turns on the lock, boom, it creates a therapeutic effect. That's the positive change we're looking for. You know, like lowering your blood pressure or shutting down a pain signal. So pharmacodynamics is all about that fascinating mechanism of action.
Now, on the flip side, if pharmacodynamics is what the drug does to you, pharmacokinetics is what your body actively does to the drug. From the literal second that pill enters your system until the moment it entirely leaves, your body is working around the clock. See, it doesn't just sit there and passively accept the medication. Oh no, it treats it as a foreign substance that needs to be processed, broken down, used, and ultimately tossed out as waste. It's this highly dynamic, two-way street where your biology is constantly wrestling with the chemistry of the pill. And that brings us to Section 2, Journey Through the Body, or as I like to call it, the biological sorting factory. To truly wrap our heads around pharmacokinetics, I think it really helps to picture the human body as a highly efficient, constantly humming biological sorting factory. This factory operates in 4 distinct chronological steps, known in the medical world as ADME. Step 1 is absorption. The pill actually has to survive the incredibly harsh, acidic environment of your stomach just to make its way into your intestines, where it can cross over into your bloodstream. Step 2 is distribution. Once the drug hitches a ride on that bloodstream highway, it gets rapidly transported everywhere to the specific tissues and organs that need it. Step 3 is metabolism. Now, this is the heavy lifting. Your liver steps up as the factory's biochemical processing plant, breaking the drug down into a more soluble compound. And finally, step 4 is excretion. This is where the kidneys step in as the ultimate waste disposal system, grabbing all that metabolized leftover material and filtering it completely out of your body, usually right through your urine.
Now here's what I found genuinely surprising in all of this. It's something called the first pass effect, and this takes place during that metabolism step. When you take a medication orally, it gets absorbed in the intestines, sure, but it doesn't just go everywhere right away. Actually, it is immediately routed straight to the liver. Think of your liver as a strict, uncompromising VIP bouncer. It inspects this foreign chemical and metabolizes a huge portion of it into inactive waste right there on the spot, before the drug ever even reaches your general circulation. Because of this intense first-pass effect, the actual amount of the active drug that makes it into your bloodstream, which is a concept known as bioavailability, is drastically lowered.
So this brings us to a really fascinating comparison, taking a pill orally versus receiving a drug intravenously or through an IV. With the oral route, absorption is way slower. The drug has to brave the digestive tract, get absorbed, and survive that extremely strict liver checkpoint we were just talking about. But the IV route? Totally different story. Injecting a drug directly into a vein means it is 100% bioavailable immediately. It completely bypasses the liver's first pass effect and skips the biological factory's receiving department altogether. This is exactly why an IV dose acts so fast in an emergency room, and frankly, why the physical dose given through an IV is usually vastly smaller than the exact same drug given in pill form.
Okay, so how do we actually know when a drug stops working? Well, that is determined by its half-life, and the half-life is literally just the time required for exactly 50% of a given drug to be eliminated from your body. Let's say you take a medication and its peak level in your blood reaches 100 milligrams. If that specific drug's half-life is 8 hours, then 8 hours from now, your biological factory will have cleared out half of it, leaving 50 milligrams. Fast forward another 8 hours, and you're down to 25 milligrams, and it just keeps halving from there. In medical science, the general rule of thumb is that it takes about 5 half-lives for our factory to clear a drug out so completely that it no longer has any therapeutic or toxic effects on you.
All right, moving on to Section 3, Age, Genetics, and Medications, also known as the human variables.
Up to this point, we've been talking about this biological factory as if it operates exactly the same way in every single human being. But honestly, it absolutely does not. Our individual human variables change the equation entirely. We see this brilliantly when we compare the extreme ends of the human lifespan. Take pediatric patients. They are not just small adults. Their livers and kidneys are literally immature, meaning they simply don't have the cellular machinery to metabolize and excrete drugs efficiently yet. Because of that, their dosages have to be meticulously calculated, most often based on their total body surface area rather than just their weight. Then on the flip side, older adults face the complete opposite challenge. As we age, our organ function naturally and slowly declines, which drastically slows down drug metabolism. Plus, older adults often experience what's called polypharmacy, which is just the simultaneous use of multiple different medications. Having all those different keys floating around at the same time massively increases the risk of unpredictable, overlapping drug interactions. But what's really fascinating here is a concept known as cultural polymorphism. It's not just our age that affects our biological factory, it's our physical heritage and our environment too. Inherited genetic traits tied to specific ethnic groups can mean that some people naturally lack certain metabolizing enzymes in their liver, while other people might have an absolute overabundance of them. When you take those deeply ingrained genetic differences and combine them with different cultural diets and nutritional statuses, you find this astonishing reality. The exact same pill, given at the exact same dose, can cause vastly different and sometimes dangerous reactions in different patients.
There's actually a quote from the source material that beautifully summarizes this incredibly nuanced reality of pharmacology. It says, "Drug therapy across the lifespan must be well thought out with full consideration to the patient's age, gender, cultural background, ethnicity, medical history." So calculating a safe dose isn't just about plugging a patient's weight into some standard math equation. It really requires a truly holistic, thoughtful understanding of the patient's entire biological and cultural background. Every single patient is a totally unique ecosystem. That brings us to our final part, Section 4, Preventing Deadly Medication Errors, the front line of safety.
1.5 million. That is the estimated number of people harmed by preventable medication errors annually in the United States alone. It's a staggering figure, right? And it instantly highlights why everything we've unpacked today matters so deeply. When the stunningly complex science of medication meets the chaotic, rapid pace of real-world healthcare, well, the margins for error are incredibly slim, and the consequences of a mistake can be absolutely devastating.
So what is actually causing all these errors? Interestingly, the research points out that it's rarely just an individual nurse or doctor's carelessness. Often, the real culprits are systemic process breakdowns and incredibly confusing drug names. In fact, there's a highly specific acronym for this in the medical world, SALAD, which stands for Sound Alike, Look Alike Drugs. Think about it. When two totally different drugs meant to treat completely different diseases have nearly identical names, or when they're packaged in identical little glass vials by the manufacturer, it creates a massive systemic vulnerability. Under the intense pressure of a busy hospital shift, even the most brilliant and attentive medical professionals can make a lethal mistake. To combat this vulnerability, healthcare professionals rely on this rigid, unyielding protocol known as the 9 rights of medication administration. Literally, before a pill ever reaches a patient's mouth, a nurse has to rapidly and accurately verify the right drug, the right dose, the right time, the right route, and the right patient. But the safety net goes even further than that, to ensure the right documentation is made, that there is the right clinical reason to give the drug in the first place, monitoring for the right response afterward, and finally, always respecting the patient's right to refuse. This rapid-fire mental checklist is absolutely crucial. It's the ultimate frontline defense protecting vulnerable patients from life-threatening errors. Wow, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, moving from the elegant molecular lock and key dance of pharmacodynamics through the heavy machinery of our biological sorting factory, all the way to the incredibly high stakes of clinical medication safety.
So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. The next time you open your medicine cabinet to grab a simple pain reliever, will you think differently about the unseen, high-stakes journey that little pill is about to take? I certainly hope you do. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Explainer, and as always, stay curious.